that express what problems are here in California in particular, and as to why some people will decide to leave California. And so, one is the open secret about California taxes. So, I've heard a lot about the taxes being an issue as to why some people will move. This article was recent, it was May 8th, 2018. So it says California's tax system, which relies heavily on the wealthy for state income, is prone to boom and burst and bust cycles. So while it delivers big returns from the rich whenever Wall Street goes on a bull run, it forces state and local governments to cut services and raise taxes or borrow money in the downturn. So during the state and the good times plummeted. So school districts handed out 30,000 pink slips to teachers. And the state was so cash strapped to pay some of its bills. So California is now enjoying one of the longest economic expansions in the state's history. But the good times can't last forever. So, with an inevitable recession lurking in our future, Governor Jerry Brown has warned state and local governments are more vulnerable than ever to teacher and police layoffs, park and library closures, and cuts in health and welfare service for the poor. So, past bipartisan efforts to reduce vol- vola- volatility without raising taxes on the poor and working class have had limited success. So the overall tax structure hasn't been leaving parts of the economy taxed at some of the nation's highest rates, while other sectors, such as services, which many other states do tax, aren't taxed in California. So politicians like to talk about the problem, explaining how Proposition 13, the famous 1978 measure that limited property taxes, has created unequal tax burdens. Yet few have been willing to initiate change. Let's take a deeper look at California's tax structure, examine the trade-offs we live with as a result, and explore what changes might be afoot. We'll walk you through what we live with today, the problems we encounter, and the proposals to fix them. So, this reporting projected was produced in a partnership with, and goes on. So, I guess there's more to this, but I wanted to flip over to this because this really will show also another issue that I've always known. If California is the future, why are so many leaving? A sobering study of how life in the Golden State continues to get too expensive. So we have the beautiful beaches and the big, huge swaying palm trees and the nice scenery. California, many say, is the future, a center for creative industries and new technologies. Look at its impressive rollout of electric vehicles and autonomous cars. So it's also a diverse state pushing progressive policies that could be the model for the rest of the country. And people are leaving in droves for opportunities elsewhere. The actual migration patterns in California aren't quite as bad as that sounds, at least not yet. But a recent report by California Legislative Analyst Office looking at domestic migration patterns shows that cracks continue to form in the state's bright facade. Between 2007 and 2016, a million more people have left the state than have moved in from other states. So, spread over a decade, that's not terrible. but it's actually less severe than domestic out-migration during the previous decade. But the patterns of who's moving in and who's moving out underlie some of the social and economic pressures that have made California and other coastal areas so prohibitively expensive. So while the state leaders slowly respond to an affordable housing crisis that's been decades in the making, look at the polarized debate around State Senator Scott uh, Wiener's bill to upzone housing around transit. Californians are finding that their own solutions for many that includes moving. So new Californians are arriving in New York, Illinois, and New Jersey, while Golden State's existing residents move to Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon. For the most part, newcomers have left wealthy pockets of the Northeast, and those departing are heading to less expensive, lower tax regions of the Sun Belt. So California is seeing a net gain in high earners making 110,000 or more, and the highly educated graduate degrees or higher, while losing those representing the other end of the socioeconomic spectrum, families with kids that are headed for Texas. Blue State College graduates are moving in. In other words, California is experiencing what looks like statewide gentrification. So due in large part to the state's housing crisis, California is becoming wealthier and more economically stratified. As more of its citizens find it difficult to make ends meet, every year the state falls roughly 100,000 units short of what it needs to keep up with housing demands. So the driving many middle class people residents are going out of the state with little hope of returning. California is experiencing what looks like statewide gentrification. So, a recent McKinsey Global Institute study, for example, found that the third of the metro area renters in the California can't afford what they pay, a sobering sign of the lack of new affordability in housing being built. And it's not just LA County, the Bay Area, where a salary of 150,000 adjusted for median income means you're earning less than the middle class wage, shedding residents. So the state's central coast is also hemorrhaging its working and middle classes. As one recent Texas transplant told Quartz, California is a lost cause. The affordability crisis is so bad that without new units and cheaper options, Silicon Valley vaunted competitiveness and the ability to hire the best talent will take a hit. Companies are starting to understand that if they don't help with these problems, they eventually won't be able to hire anybody to work here anymore. So Allison Arif, New York Times columnist and editorial director, nonprofit San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association called SPUR, told Curb, states like Texas and to a lesser degree, Nevada, Arizona have gained from California's losses. So people are leaving the Bay Area for not Los Angeles, but Las Vegas rather, enticed by its attractive cost of living and the relatively low price of the new homes there, which sell for between 200,000 to 300,000, which is a lot cheaper than Los Angeles and some of the other areas, unless you're on some kind of program. In fact, a Newsweek analyst found that the price of renting a moving truck from Vegas to San Jose costs $121, while on heading in the opposite direction is an subtle $1,990. So some of the states Californians are fleeing to offer a life without corporate or personal income taxes and the home costs in the low six figures. So Texas, for instance, has boomed, becoming one of the fastest growing states in the nation. It's now has homes from 867,000 new residents that are coming from California who arrived between 2010 and 2016. So Californians rightfully celebrate the state's incredible scenery, quality of life, and diversity, but without serious and sustained action on housing, the lifestyle will only be available to the increasing select few who can afford it. So that's been the biggest issues as to why some people will move out of the California areas, California, because of the high cost of living, which is somewhat being gentrified everywhere. So even I believe it will happen in other states. It hasn't hit other states as hard just yet, but I believe it's coming. But I have heard some people talking about Atlanta, some of the other cities, Chicago, and some other cities where they're starting to do some of the same gentrification in those areas as well. And so they have their own set of issues there. And so this is what I've heard. I did hear too that they were going to look into making a mandate on having solar powered panels on new housing, which is probably going to pose as a problem as to what I've just read, that is already a housing crisis. So to make a mandate that new housing have these panels, these solar panels, would even make it cost more than what it is now, which they're experiencing the high costs right now. And so that's what I've learned in terms of, from what is going on, and by being a resident here in the California area. But with that being said, that's pretty much this article that I found right here. It's in the Curb. It's called Properties in Los Angeles. And so I think that fits more to what's going on here. That's at least what I've known it to be. What I've seen a lot of people complain about is those particular issues. More recently, I guess they're going to have people start voting. I think the voting is going to begin relatively soon. So these are some of the issues that they had been talking about. I believe some of these issues will be debated if they haven't already, or they'll be decided on in the next election. But anyway, with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for really being attentive listener. I really appreciate your comments. Thank you, and have a good evening. Bye.